Друзья, всем привет! Как я уже и обещал, сегодня у нас интервью с Мартином Миллером. Мартин Миллер – это очень крутой гитарист, один из лучших в мире, владеющий любыми техниками, импровизирующий, просто адекватнейший человек. Я с ним знаком лично. Мы записали видео в таком формате, когда мы созвонились по скайпу, я ему задал 9 своих вопросов, которые задаю всем, может быть, чуть больше где-то получилось, в общем, хороший такой 20-минутный с ним диалог получился, и мы обсудили многие моменты. Супер приятный человек, который прям представляет из себя вот эталон музыканта, как он должен быть, современного такого прям прогрессивного, крутого гитариста. Он рассказал много интересных вещей, необычных. И я не буду долго вас отвлекать, у меня было уже видео про Мартина Миллера, почему я считаю, что один из лучших гитаристов он, и каким гитарист в идеале должен быть на его примере. Вы можете посмотреть, обязательно в конце ролика будет, в подсказочке вот здесь вот. Поэтому всем хорошего просмотра, мне кажется, классный контент, как я уже говорил, полноценное интервью сможем себе позволить после 10 тысяч подписчиков. И проходите по ссылочкам, внизу Мартин Миллер, ссылочки на его именную гитару, на его канал, подписывайтесь, качайте на iTunes. Я буду, сколько у меня хватит сил продвигать всех таких музыкантов. Дальше у нас будет русский гость, а потом снова будет гость зарубежный в этой рубрике. Так что, друзья, я всех вас призываю подписываться, рассказывать друзьям, потому что такой канал у нас один, где такие интервью с такими музыкантами, где адекватные вопросы, где формат контента такого качества. Больше таких я на YouTube не видел. И если вы хотите реально заниматься образованием гитарным, если вы хотите понимать и осознавать, что происходит вообще, почему вот так, то вам только сюда. Это единственный канал, где вы сможете подчеркнуть такую информацию. По басу он тоже, например, один, это Дмитрий Максимов, тоже если хотите, подписывайтесь на него, потому что тоже крутой контент от очень крутого дяденьки. И по барабанам тоже есть, но о них, наверное, стоит отдельно рассказать для всех интересующихся. Ну а сейчас поехали, у нас на очереди Мартин Миллер с интервью, и всем спасибо за просмотр. Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Nice.
how you been?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Very good. So, can you tell us in a few words about your approach to playing harmony or improvising over chord changes?
Okay, so the thing that I'm most concerned about when I improvise is, especially when it's over harmonies and chord progression, chord changes, those types of things, is how does my melody note relate to the harmony that's played underneath?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I think in relative terms. So I don't think in note names, but I think in solfeggio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't think in the classical solfeggio, like relative do. I think in that system, but I don't use their names. I don't use do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Mm-hmm.
flat 3, sharp 4, flat 6, etc. So whatever chord I'm on, and I'm playing a melody note on top, I think about how that note relates to the harmony underneath. So if I play an E flat over a C minor chord, I'm thinking that's the minor third.
Mm-hmm.
If the chord switches to F minor 7 and the melody note stays E flat, I think, oh, that's the flat 7.
Mm-hmm.
So if I stay on the note as the chords underneath change, the relative function of the melody note to the chord changes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I think about when I improvise over melodic lines. And then I also think of cadence. So most guitar players that I see online these days are only playing over modal progressions.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of what a lot of jazz guitar players do is they play over functional progressions with cadences, like a 2-5-1, those types of progressions, or a 4-5-1, or anything that has cadence, tension and release in it. I also think about how chords relate to another, and I think about how do I get from one chord to the next. So I think a few steps ahead. Like if I'm on the 2 chord going to the 5 chord, while I'm on the 2 chord, I'm already think about the note that I'm landing on with the 5 chord, and so I shape my line to target that.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes, that's the really short story of it.
Okay, yeah, I think that's enough because every guitarist has his own, approach to play this. So
my approach is very non-guitar-y.
Mm-hmm.
I take the same approach that a piano player or a horn saxophone player would use. Yes,
yeah.
Because I've studied in college, and that's the kind of people you hang out with. The cool thing is that when you're in college for 4 years, you get to not think like a guitar player for a while, and that really helps. So you don't need to come up with any crazy concepts and any crazy guitar methods or try to find any shortcuts. It's the more let's say tested over the last decades tested approach to improvisation. That kind of mindset.
Yeah. So I think that's good. The second question is what types of sound extraction do you use the most? Alternate strokes, legato. Tell us about them in a few words.
Yeah, I use alternate picking as my bass technique, as my home bass, meaning that if I have a note on a downbeat, it gets a downstroke. If I have a note on an upbeat, it gets an upstroke. If I have several upbeats in a row, I'll do several upstrokes in a row. Just like strumming, you don't go dun da dun da 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 dun da da, but you go dun da dun da 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 dun. That's how I do it with single note lines, because that helps me keep time. That's
the right way, but not a lot of guitarists do that right.
Yeah, and a lot of people who struggle with their time feel it can be fixed by adjusting their pick strokes.
Yeah.
But not everybody plays like that. There's lots of great players who don't. It just works for me, really. So the other thing I do a sort of a Pat Metheny, Schofield-esque articulation, where I would say I pick about 70% of the notes, and I tie notes that are on the downbeats, and I pick notes that are on the upbeats to get that kind of saxophony, flowing kind of articulation.
Yeah.
Button, 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 button. So you have an accent on the upbeats instead of the downbeats. That I use, and then for a few tricks I use some pure legato and some pure sweeping economy picking type thing, but that's tricks. The home base for me is alternate picking and the mixed type of Matheny approach.
Okay, so good. The third question will be short. Amp or processor, and why?
Both, because they both have advantages and disadvantages, and I always like to use a hybrid system. Amps for projection on stage and digital for the ease of use is my general outline. But every setup that I do, especially live, is a hybrid setup of the two. I don't like pure digital systems. I have to have an amp on stage because I think it sounds more natural and real.
What did you use in your sessions, studio sessions on your YouTube channel?
That is XFX straight into the console. But I used the XFX just for monitoring, and I recorded the I signal, and then I reamp it with whatever I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So especially on the later sessions, the first few were only XFX, but on the last two or so, I started tracking the I signals and reamping with different things.
Okay. So the fourth question: describe what would be the ideal practice regimen for 1 day of guitar self-study?
Yeah, to me that doesn't exist. I never had a practice regime like that because it always distracted me more than anything. So if I was sitting down trying to figure out inversions of triads and then the timer went off, oh, your 10 minutes are done, you have to do alternate picking now, that I find that inefficient. For me, the very best practice regime is when I practice what I want to naturally practice, because that's your information. You can soak up the information more easily if you like what you're doing. And the question is, how do you start liking? How do you start liking harmony? How do you start liking to practice time feel? And here's where a good teacher comes in. If a good teacher makes you understand why you need to practice your time feel, you understand that that's what you need to become a better player. And if that gives you the results, you will want to practice it. So I always wanted to practice the stuff that gives me the results.
Okay. So tell us some stereotypes about musicians which you broke or defied on your path to becoming a musician.
Like, give me an example of a stereotype.
I don't know, that you cannot play jazz on Ibanez, for example.
Oh yes. Okay, that's actually the perfect example because you hit the nail on the head. I play jazz and I play it on a solid body Ibanez. So and the reason for that is that I don't want to be compared to the full-time jazz players. For me, I love jazz, but for me, it's not the only thing I do. So I try to find a bit of a common ground because I'm a rock guy at heart. So I try to find some common ground with that when I play jazz, even if it's jazz with a clean tone. But I don't want to compare myself to the guys like Adam Rogers or Jonathan Kreisberg. So I don't even want to use their guitars. I want to do my own thing. It makes me a little bit more unique, if you will.
Maybe something about equipment stereotypes. Maybe you had some on your studying period.
Yeah, well, the
you know, like you cannot develop your picking in digital tools.
Yeah. Very common stereotype is that digital amps don't react to your playing and your dynamics. I've played tons of tube amps that don't react to your playing and dynamics. And I've played tons of digital processors that don't react to your playing and dynamics. You just got to find the good stuff. It's like with the amps, man, there's so many crap boutique amps out there. It's insane. Like overpriced high-end amps that I plug into and I go, what is this? I cannot use this. And it's the same in the digital world. And for me, I just don't care what the label is, and I don't care what type of product it is. I just care about whether it gets me what I want to achieve.
The sound.
Yeah, if it gets me the sound, and if it's convenient to use.
Okay. So tell us about a concert you attended which inspired you more than any other.
The biggest inspiration I ever had from a concert, and I've told this story a few times, I think. So I was about, let me think, I was maybe 13 or so, and I went to a Deep Purple concert, and I had never heard of Steve Morse in my life before. And they had 3 support bands, and every support band had amazing guitar players in them. Every one of them had an amazing guitar player. But then the 4th band, Deep Purple, came on, and it was Steve Morse, and he blew my head off. Like I thought I was a pretty good player at the time, and I was in complete shock. And then I went home, and I remember that shock state of mind lasted for a few more days, where I just could not believe it. And it's like everything that I thought I knew was true was out of the window, and I had to reconsider.
I know this feel.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, and it never came back quite the same.
Really?
Yeah. Well, yes, a couple times, but the first time it happens, it hits you the hardest, in my opinion. At least in my experience. Yeah.
Have you heard Rammstein in live?
Of course, everybody has heard Rammstein, but not live. I haven't heard them live, no.
Oh, no? Okay. So the 7th question, tell us some awesome story from your time of studying or professional experience. It can be an unconventional story.
Oh, well, you want to hear my biggest embarrassment on stage?
Maybe not yours, maybe something you have saw.
No, I'll do mine. I won't drag somebody else into this. I'll confess my own failure. So it must have been like 10 years back, or 8 years back, and I just had a guitar retrofitted with the tremolo nose system. You know that thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Just to block off the tremolo and then to loosen it so you can use the tremolo again. And apparently the guy who put it in made some mistake or something. I don't know. I was playing with a gospel choir, and was in front of at least 500 people, and I had my own spot that was like 32 bars long. And I had to go to the middle of the stage and play a solo only with whole notes and half notes, like really a lyrical type of melody. And it all goes well. I had it down. I had it studied. Into the 4th bar, I reach for the tremolo arm, and I start using it, and the thing gets stuck. The tremolo nose system gets stuck. And I didn't know what was going on. The solution would have been to just yank it the other way, but I didn't know. So the whole guitar went out of tune. I just tried to recapture that melody on one string that was completely out of tune. It was so embarrassing. And then I get back to my place, completely embarrassed, retuned my guitar, kept playing, and the next time I used the tremolo, it snapped back and it went out of tune again. Oh my god. Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really that's terrible. Really a bad situation. What are the top 3 albums you are listening to now in your iPod?
I don't have 3 albums that I listen to, quite frankly.
Maybe 3 artists.
I can tell you the last 3 albums I listened to that I really enjoyed. I listened to Appetite for Destruction recently. I listened to the new Steven Wilson album. And I listened to Damnation by Opeth. Those 3 I really liked.
Maybe you have your favorite guitar instrumental album all the time.
That would be... Oh, that is a tough one. Guitar instrumental. I don't listen to guitar instrumental music.
Oh, really?
To be honest. No, I don't. I never did. I always listened to bands. I never listened to a Steve Vai album, never listened to a Satriani album. Not any of those. They're amazing. They're amazing. But for me, it was always the bands that got me. And first, it was the vocal bands, like Queen, Pink Floyd, Dream Theater, Nirvana, Metallica, Toto, etc., Deep Purple, obviously. And then later on, I got into all the fusion bands. And I always liked the bands where the guitar was just a part of the music and never the focal point.
Maybe any thoughts about Periphery?
I have not gotten into the modern metal thing. For me, kind of the whole metal thing. I mean, they're absolute innovators and visionaries with what they do, and you can tell that because an entire generation of guitar players is copying what they do. But for me, it was a little too late to get into it. For me, I've gotten out of metal around the late 90s.
Oh, okay. Because
early 2000s.
Because I think for the most people think that you are, a guy from the top of progressive guitar playing for now. As Periphery, one of the toppest bands in the metal music right now.
Oh, I absolutely respect what they do. And Misha is, as I said, he's an absolute visionary, because he created a sound and a style basically on his own. And who can say that about themselves? He basically has an army of copycats, and that to me is amazing. If I could ever achieve that, I would be delighted, But my personal taste is much more rooted in the 70s to 90s.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the last question. Give us one or more tips for guitarists who are aspiring towards a high level of musical achievement and expression.
Okay, I said this in an interview recently, but I'm going to repeat it because I think it's absolutely important to say. You have to take your time. You have to really take your time. Don't rush towards perfection and those type of things, because they don't exist. And we live in a time where everybody can choose what other people see of them. And so we create this image of perfection of everybody. You know what? I make so many mistakes. It's not even funny how many mistakes I made. But as I get older, I learn to accept those mistakes about myself more. And young people who start out now being born into this world of manufactured perfection might get discouraged very easily. Don't get discouraged about this. We're all human. And take your time to study. You don't need to be the next Instagram star the day after tomorrow. If it's in 10 years, if it's in 20 years, if it's never, enjoy the journey, enjoy the growth as a human being and as a musician. That is, in my opinion, what it's all about. It's never about just about the product. It's also about the process of getting there.
So I think it's priceless. Yeah. So thank you very much. That was really nice. We are happy to have you here. So,
sweet. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So we would like to see you sometime in Moscow with Tom Quayle, with your clinics, or...
That would be amazing. We got to make that happen. We're going on a big tour this year. We already did like 10 shows together, and we're going to have 30 more. Unfortunately, Russia is not on the schedule for this year, but I hope we make it happen next year. A couple of things to check out. The first one being my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ what is it?
I'll put the link.
Yeah, put the link. It's either Elvishi or Martin Miller Guitar. I think both might work. I'm actually not sure. So my YouTube channel would be nice. There's lots of tuitional information on there. There's lots of performances. Check out my Gem Track Central page, which I'm going to send you. You can put that there too. There's my instructional products, like my improvisation masterclass. And of course, check out my Ibanez MM1 that is in this bag over there, because I just traveled with it. So my Ibanez MM1 Martin Miller signature guitar is...
I'll put a picture of this.
Sweet. Nice.
Yeah. So, again, thank you very much. It was really inspiring. Yeah. So...
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. The last question. Some tracks from the album, from the recording with Tom Quayle and
we released one of the tracks already. Yeah. It's on Tom's channel. It's just a matter of finding the time to finalize some stuff, because it's just so many small things missing that kept it from being released. And at the time where we made it, there was no such platform as Spotify where you could put up covers. So we ran into some legal issues, and that's why it never got released. But I'm sure that down the line we will just get that album out there for free.
Yeah, because this recording is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of gems on that record, and we're gonna release them every once in a while. We'll put out a new track, I'm pretty sure. And also, I'm working on some new music. I just started last week, so I'm on to solo album number 2 as well.
And when do you think it will be done?
I'm making no promises at this point.
Okay.
It's just like the growth as a musician. I just want to take my time and have it out when it's ready. Ideally, I would want that to be next year, but you know how it is, how life gets in the way sometimes. So
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, same.
So okay, thank you. Bye.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.